This is Newsmax TV. I'm Ashley Martella. We're very pleased to be joined by Barry Goldwater Jr. He served as a Republican member of the House of Representatives for 14 years. He is the son of former Arizona Senator and 1964 Republican presidential nominee Barry Goldwater. Welcome to Newsmax, Barry.
Thank you, Ashley. Nice to be here.
Your dad is widely regarded as the father of conservatism. Now, with groups such as the Tea Party trying to move the Republican Party back to its conservative roots in many ways, what does your dad say? What would your dad say? And how do you feel about the Tea Party movement?
I think it's the Tea Party movement reminds me a lot of the conservative movement back in 1960 and 1964. It is an effort by people who are sick and tired of the country moving to the left, the liberals taking this country more and more toward European socialism. Tax and spend, and they're tired of it. And they want to move it back to the middle, back to the right. Less taxes, less government, less intrusion in our lives. It's the same message that my father spoke in 1964. So there's a lot of similarities to what's going on today, which what happened back in the 60s.
Now, Tea Party candidate Christine O'Donnell upset Republican Congressman Mike Castle in the Delaware GOP Senate primary. Now, the National Republican Senatorial Committee has said it will not support O'Donnell financially. Is that a wise decision by the NRSC?
No, it's not a wise decision. They ought to keep their mouths shut and just take a look at what's going on in this country. There is a realignment in the Republican Party. No more of this middle of the road, no more of these moderates. The American people and in the Republican Party wants to be redefined as solid conservative. And that is what happened in Delaware. O'Donnell upset Castle? Mike Castle, who was a moderate. He voted for
cap and trade.
Cap and trade. The Republican Party is realigned today along conservative lines. And this is happening all across the country, not just in Delaware.
Now, Karl Rove says O'Donnell is not electable in November, and her primary win will actually cost the Republicans a pickup. What do you say to that?
I think he's wrong. There is such energy, such enthusiasm, such motivation in the Republican Party. We will get our voters out. When Republicans are energized, we respond by getting our voters out. The Democrats will be lucky. They'll be lucky if they get any of their voters out.
There's a new breed of conservative Republican leadership, such as South Carolina Senator Jim DeMint, Congressman Mike Pence and Paul Ryan, and of course Sarah Palin. Do you see their ideas resonating with voters?
Time will tell. I don't know. I think we're just beginning to see leaders emerge in the Republican Party. I don't see any one person who's taking charge, like a Ronald Reagan or a Barry Goldwater. But I think as time goes by, we'll find out who those leaders will be. But yes, all those that you've mentioned are viable.
There are some Republicans who argue that the era of Ronald Reagan is history and the party should move on. Do they have a point?
No, well, they may have a point, but we can learn a lot from history. History tends to repeat itself. And the message of Ronald Reagan was very good in those days, and the American people were very responsive to it. They're responsive to that same message today. Get the government out of our lives. Get them out of our pocketbook. Get them off our back. Leave us alone and let us take care of our own.
That's my next question. How do you feel about the massive expansion and government control and spending under the Obama administration and the Democrat-dominated Congress? What is that doing to the country?
Well, I think Obama and the Democrat Congress are symbols of the liberalism that have infected this country over the last 100 years. Americans are saying today, we have had enough. And anybody who thinks there are not consequences for this reckless spending and potential increase in taxes is either uninformed or smoking some kind of dope.
Many people are predicting the Republicans will retake control of the House and perhaps the Senate. Is that a pretty good bet, at least on the House side?
Who really knows? The momentum is going toward the Republican way. I would guess that we'll stand a good chance, but nobody really knows until the final day.
Okay, you live in Arizona. What do you think of the Obama administration going after your state and specifically Governor Jan Brewer for the legislation that 1070, as it's called, to basically enforce immigration laws?
I think it's pretty sad when the President of the United States gets in bed with the President of Mexico, Calderon, and attacks one of our 50 states. That's not good government. What kind of president attacks a state who's trying to defend itself from an invasion of illegal and undocumented workers and gangs of thugs who are bringing drugs into this country? Where is our president? Where's our leadership? It's unfathomable that you'd have a president attacking a state and getting in bed with the president of Mexico. That's not right.
Arizona is not the only border state. Why do you think it's sort of being singled out here?
Well, because it's standing up, it's trying to do something. It's very interesting when you go down to southern Arizona and maybe 50 or 60 miles inside our borders, you have signs saying danger. Illegal, undocumented workers and drug cartels are active in this area. That is scary. And so Arizona is doing well. The federal government is supposed to be taking care of this, and they're not. And I've suggested to the governor of Arizona that we ought to declare war on Mexico, and we can under the Constitution. If the federal government does not do what it's supposed to do, and that is defend ourselves, and we are in a state of peril, she has a right to mobilize our troops and defend ourselves. And that's what Arizona is doing. It's taking harsh action to try to stop this undocumented invasion of our country.
Senator John Karl says that when he implored Obama to secure the border, Obama told him that if he did that, it would remove the incentive for Republicans to negotiate on comprehensive immigration reform. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's going to take a bipartisan effort to tackle this very complicated issue of immigration. It's just not undocumented people that come here, and they're coming from all around the world, not just Mexico. But you have the quota system, which is outdated and archaic. Quotas are set by the Congress, and they shouldn't be. Quotas for bringing workers into this country that are desperately needed should be a market-based. It ought to be in the hands of the Department of Labor, who quarterly goes around to all the industries and say, are you short of workers? And if they are, they put the word out to our embassies, and we bring people in on a regulated kind of documentation where they work and then they go home. But immigration is a complicated. It's going to be very difficult to straighten it out.
Do you think the Obama administration's goal is to grant amnesty to the illegals already in this country?
Oh, I think there's no question to that. And they have a vested interest because they want those votes.
All right, you were in the House for 14 years. What is your proudest accomplishment, and is there anything you wish you could have done if the Republicans had been in the majority then?
Well, I served 14 years as a minority member of Congress. Let me first point out that there's quite a difference between today and when I was there. Today, there's a lot of anger and animosity and get-even kind of atmosphere that predominates the Congress. When I served in the Congress as a minority member, the Democrats allowed me to participate. I could offer motions and amendments and debate, and we're not relegated to the sidelines the way the minority is today. The best thing I ever did, I guess, and I was involved in a number of pieces of legislation, but I was a co-author of the Privacy Act of 1974, along with the then Congressman Ed Koch, who then became a mayor of New York City. But Ed and I shepherded the Privacy Act of 1974, which was the first time we ever tried to codify the concept of privacy. Privacy is not mentioned in the Constitution, but without privacy, the right to be left alone, if that doesn't prevail, our constitutional system fails. So privacy is important, and that was one of the best things I think I did.
All right, finally, when you think about your dad, what sticks out in your mind the most?
Well, that would make me cry if I talked about that, but He was a man who truly loved his state and his nation. He went to war to defend our freedoms. He came back and he served 30 years in the United States Senate, trying to get this country, trying to defend our freedoms and our liberties. And I think, to me, he was a great statesman, but he was a tremendous father. And he never raised a hand, but he set by example, and he always set the bar high. And he told me, Barry, always be the best you can. Always work hard, and always treat people with kindness. That's what I remember about my father.
Barry Goldwater, thank you so much for coming and talking with us here at Newsmax. It's been a pleasure, sir. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.